Who's going to win the Super Bowl? If you're an NFL fan, I'm sure you've been asked that question, or you've at least thought about that question at some point over the last few weeks as we approach the 2014 season. And look, I don't have all the answers for you. I do have a couple of guesses that I'd like to think are educated guesses. Of course, I'm sure you do too. Fun to guess, fun to speculate, fun to have a bet on this type of thing. Pick out 2 or 3 teams, put a few dollars down, and see what happens. If you're into that type of thing, of course, no better place to do it than an exchange like BETDAQ. That's because if things are going well for you, you can trade out for a profit at any time during the season. Take last year, for example, when we liked the New Orleans Saints, who were trading at 22-1 prior to the season. You could have backed the Saints to win the Super Bowl at 22-1 on BETDAQ. If you did that, then you were probably happy when they were right around 8-1, 9-1 mid-season. If you got out at that point, then you did guarantee yourself a tidy little profit. That's how we like to do it, right? Buy low, sell high. Of course, sometimes we hang on too long, and those of you who were hoping that New Orleans would finish the job last year were disappointed when they ended up losing the division to Carolina there at the end of the season, which cost them home field. They had to go on the road to Seattle, where of course they lost. Put up a good fight against the eventual Super Bowl champion Seahawks, but they did lose. Now, I think New Orleans, a pretty good looking bet again this year, currently trading at 14.5 on BETDAQ. That's 13.5-1 for those of you who aren't quite as familiar with the decimal odds. People like me, the decimal odds still don't quite roll off my tongue. So 13.5-1 for New Orleans right now. Look, I like them once again in the NFC South. Their defense was great last year, which was a shock because, of course, 2 years ago they allowed more yards than any defense in NFL history. Enter Rob Ryan, a scheme change, and all of a sudden they're a top 5 defense. You know, I'm not relying on them being a top 5 defense again this season, but I do think they'll be a top half of the league defense, and that might be good enough because I do rely on that New Orleans Saints offense, one of the most reliable units in the NFL. I mean, look, as long as Drew Brees is healthy, this Saints offense is going to be really, really good. And look, when they're at home in the Superdome, they're at another level entirely. New Orleans 16-5 against the spread, their last 21 home games. New Orleans and Seattle, the 2 best home teams in the NFL, without a doubt. And if the Saints can somehow lock up home field advantage this season throughout the NFC playoffs, they have an excellent chance of winning the Super Bowl. So I think they're a good-looking bet at 13.5-1. Again, 14.5. Another bet I like, short odds here, but look, the New England Patriots. I know, roll your eyes. Patriots, a popular pick every year it seems like. They're really the gold standard for success in the NFL, even though it's been a decade, nearly a decade, I guess, since they last won a Super Bowl. They're in the mix every year. Going to be in the mix again this year. Their division really weak once again. The AFC East, Miami, the Jets, Buffalo, none of those teams ready to challenge New England, so I think they're sort of going to have a cakewalk into the playoffs once again. Main reason I like this Patriots team, I think this is going to be the best defense they've had in quite a while. Remember, years ago, Bill Belichick was praised. He was called the evil genius, you know, for his defensive schemes. He used to frustrate Peyton Manning every year in the playoffs. Well, that talk sort of dissipated over the last few years because New England has not been any good on defense. I mean, they've been terrible for the last 4 or 5 years. So where has that Belichick genius gone? Well, I think we're going to see a little bit of it back in action this year. I'm sure genius is overrated, but now that New England has some personnel upgrades over the last 2 years, they've really upgraded both the front 7 and the secondary. Darrelle Revis, of course, in the fold now, replacing the departed Aqib Talib at cornerback. Look, I think New England is going to have a top 10 defense. We know about that offense. They're going to roll along just like normal. I know they just lost guard Logan Mankins in a trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you got to have faith in that New England offense. Tom Brady, approaching 40, his play sure hasn't slipped much, even last year when he was really surrounded by next to nothing at times at the wide receiver position with all the injuries and departures that they had to deal with. They should be stronger at wide receiver this year. They added Brandon LaFell. They got to cross their fingers and hope that Danny Amendola stays healthy. Edelman, of course, is back in the fold. Rob Gronkowski, the all-world tight end, should be good to go week 1. So I like New England this year. I think it's going to be the best Patriots team in several years. And even though the odds are kind of short, 8.8 on BETDAQ, again, that's right around 8-1, 15-2 to be exact. So short odds, no doubt about it. But of all these short odds teams, I like the Patriots the most. Again, I also like the New Orleans Saints at 13.5 to 1. Let's talk about a couple of long odds teams. That's sometimes fun too. Put a couple of dollars down on a team that it might not be realistic, but you never know. If they're playing well mid-season, might be able to trade out for a nice profit, or you never know what might happen. They might be able to take it all the way home and finish the job. A team that could do that potentially is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh currently trading at 38 to 1 on BETDAQ. Now, I know I've heard some people anyway, low on the Steelers this year. They think that Steelers are a team in decline, and certainly last year a disappointment not reaching the playoffs. But I think this season they're going to return to the postseason. I'm not sure they're going to be able to overtake Cincinnati in their division in the AFC North, but do think they're going to be a playoff team, mainly because of their offense. I think this is going to be the best Pittsburgh offense of the Ben Roethlisberger era. Have to like what rookie Le'Veon Bell gave the offense last year, sort of a consistent presence in the running game. I know his yards per carry average wasn't that spectacular, but for the first time in a few years, it felt like the Steelers had a reliable option out of the backfield. He's joined this year, of course, by LeGarrette Blount. But the Pittsburgh offense has evolved into a pass-first offense over the past few years. Ben Roethlisberger, despite what you think of him, without a doubt, he is one of the top 6 or 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. Extremely comfortable now with Antonio Brown. He is the go-to guy now in Pittsburgh. But they've added some weaponry. They added some weaponry through the draft this year. Be interesting to see what rookie Dry Archer brings to this team. You've heard a lot of talk about him. And anyway, I think the Steelers offense going to be better this season than they've been in several years. And while the defense, is probably not going to be as good as it was 4 or 5 years ago, they have gotten younger. This is still a Dick LeBeau coach defense. I do think they're going to be a top 10, top 12 type defense. So I look for the Steelers to return to the postseason at 38 to 1. Now, I think they're a pretty good bet. I mean, you never know. If Peyton Manning gets injured, if Tom Brady gets injured, I mean, who else in the AFC would you really say is head and shoulders better than the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? Not many teams, certainly. So might be a good price. Might want to look at Pittsburgh there. Now, you want to talk about real long shots, and I know this might fall under the unrealistic a little bit, but hey, stranger things have happened in the NFL. We see worst to first cases every year. Look at last year, the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at what they were trading at prior to the season. I don't even remember off the top of my head, but I guarantee you it was something like this. It was something astronomical. And of course, with the way they started the season, Kansas City, I know they were 7 to 1, 8 to 1 at one point before they tapered off towards the end of the year. But take a look at the Tampa Bay Bucks. I know the Tampa Bay Bucks 93 to 1. You can back the Bucks right now on BETDAQ at 93 to 1. Now I know the Bucks were a bit of a laughingstock last year. Lovie Smith now taking over there in Tampa. We know what Lovie Smith can do. He can coach defense. All throughout his tenure in Chicago, and even before then when he was defensive coordinator at St. Louis, always had really good defenses, and there is some real defensive talent there in Tampa. Some young defensive talent. Tampa will have a good defense this year. The question is on the other side of the ball. But they have great skill position talent. Vincent Jackson, of course, joined by the rookie Mike Evans, should give them a nice 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Stable of backs led by Doug Martin. And they've got Josh McCown, who played well in 7 starts last year for the Chicago Bears. Now, McCown, a bit of a journeyman, but he played well, like I said, last year for the Bears. Seems to have it all figured out. You would hope now in his mid-30s. Lovie Smith has familiarity with him, of course. McCown was his backup for years in Chicago. Should be an upgrade anyway over what rookie Mike Glennon gave them last year at the quarterback position. Real question there in Tampa Bay is the offensive line. Of course, they just traded for Pro Bowl guard Logan Mankins. Mankins, of course, had spent his entire career with the New England Patriots. He will now play for Tampa Bay. That will be a big upgrade, no doubt about it. But the Bucs line's still a bit of a question. If they can get good play out of that line, if Josh McCown can step up and play well, I know there's a couple of big ifs there, but the Bucs have the makings of a team that could really surprise some people because, like I said, they will play good defense, and they do have some skill position talent there in Tampa. I'm not suggesting the Bucs are going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying at 93 to 1, you could do a lot worse. There you have it. Those are 4 teams I think might be worth a look. If you're not involved in BETDAQ Super Bowl market, hey, you should be. Give it a look. It's lively, as we said. And hey, if you're looking for some short odds teams, you might want to check out New England, New Orleans. If you're looking for the long odds teams, again, I recommend looking at Pittsburgh and maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is just the beginning, folks. Just the beginning. Season kicks off in a few days. You can probably tell I'm excited. I hope you are too. We'll be covering, of course, all year here at BETDAQ Tips. For BETDAQ NFL, I'm John Arnette.